Welcome, 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 everyone. Thank you for joining us again today. I will allow a few participants to just join in, so I will give it another 3 to 4 minutes. But feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. We want to get to know you a little bit better. What faculty are you attending? What program are you taking? In what year have you picked already your major? Just let's make the chat a little bit more lively. Don't be shy to use the chat to say hi, to introduce yourself. I'm very excited about the topic that we will be discussing today. I feel as a venture coach, I get a lot of questions when it comes to how can I come up with a business idea. So I am looking forward to dive into the subject. But yet, feel free to use the chat, introduce yourself, let us know what program you are taking. If you are currently a staff at University of Manitoba or a student, we would like to know, we'd like to get to know you better. Also, how did you hear about the webinar today? We are trying to make sure we reach out a bigger audience. So let us know if you follow us on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Yeah, use the chat to introduce yourself. Don't be shy. And we are going to give again another 2 minutes before we begin. Okay, I think we have 12 participants. So let's just dive into the topic of the day. But before, there's a couple of house rules here that I'm inviting you to follow. Please stay on mute throughout the webinar. We want to make sure that everyone remain focused. We don't want to hear any background noise. But feel free to put on your camera if you are comfortable enough. I always feel like it's a little bit lonely here with having online meetings. I feel like I'm talking to myself. So if you are not shy, you can put your camera on and keep me company. Use the chat to ask any questions that you may have during the webinar. So although you remain on mute, don't shy away from asking the questions during the webinar. They will be answered at the end. There will be a Q&A portion at the end of the webinar where I'll go through the questions and try to answer them the best I can. And lastly, the webinar is recorded. It will be uploaded on the website. We want to give you an opportunity to still go back and review some of the main point that we will discuss today. So you have access to that video on the website. It will be uploaded shortly. And if you are not following us yet on our social media, this is the time to pull up your phone, to give us a follow. We have a LinkedIn page, an Instagram, and a Twitter account. This is where you will know what's happening at the center. Any crispy news, feel free to engage with us on social media. Send us a DM, like, share, let your friend know about what's happening here at the center. And there will be also a prize for the first person that will be asking a question at the end of the webinar. So get ready for your question. It will not be in vain. Now I'm just going to play a video just to present you the Stu Clark Center and what we do.
Let's talk about entrepreneurship. It's the light bulb moment from your first big idea. It's the decision to set out on a new path. It's the realization that entrepreneurship starts with a spark, and that spark starts here. At the Stu Clark Center, we're here to nurture your ideas and help spark your entrepreneurial spirit. How? How about competitive opportunities to free your inner entrepreneur? Advice from venture coaches who have walked the walk. Or some of the best networking events you'll find on campus. You'll find it all right here. By focusing on education, awareness, community, coaching, and connection, we build strong relationships with our students and do everything we can to help them on their journey to self-starting. At the Stu Clark Center, we thrive when you thrive. No idea is too big or too small. The Stu Clark Center is your one-stop shop for everything you need to start your journey. So why not start today?
Why not start today? I think this is such a strong line to finish our video. There's no right or wrong time. You just have to start. And even attending a webinar is already a step toward your goals as an entrepreneur. Just getting out there and learning and connecting is a great way to foster a mindset of an entrepreneur. And a little bit about myself. My name is Karen Bado. I am the venture coach at the Stu Clark Center for Entrepreneurship. Our office is located in the Drake building on the second floor. And I am a free resource for anyone on campus who want to learn more about entrepreneurship. I work with students across faculty. It doesn't matter if you are a science, engineering, or a business student. I even have now a few ag student interested. We have PhD, doctor, like anybody is welcome to book a meeting with me. I want to make sure that you know that this is free. We do not charge anyone for the service that we offer. It's a great opportunity for you to leverage. And a little bit on my background, I have over 7 years of experience working as a finance officer and as a financial officer as well. So I specialize in business plan writing, financial projections, but overall I have a strong passion for helping entrepreneurs succeed. I work with women entrepreneurs. I'm a business consultant as well. I'm also an entrepreneur. I run a family business along with my sisters. And I always think about a new way to be creative and come up with a solution. And this is the perfect time to talk about creativity, to talk about the process to come up with business idea. And I'm looking forward to dive into the topic. I'm not alone. We have a team here of experts ready to support you in your journey. We have our director, Deborah Jonathan Young, Lindsay Friesen, the marketing coordinator. If you see all the beautiful graphics on the website or on our social page, just know that it's Lindsay that is working hard to keep the page alive. Amy Jones, she's our program coordinators, the competitions. We have our anniversary coming up soon in November. So any program that you see coming out of the center is led by Amy. She's a great resource as well. If you have any question when it comes to the eligibility to apply to the competitions, feel free to contact her as well. And we have Roxanne Scars, she is our office administrator. She keeps everything together and she's a great support. So we are all here for you. Again, we are located on the second floor in the Drake building. The office is open from 8:30 to 4:30. If you are around, feel free to come and say hi and yeah, chat with us. We would like to see your face now that the campus is open. We see a lot of students, so don't be shy to come around and meet one of us. I'm coming back to the Venture Coach program. Again, it's a great resource if you are out there thinking about entrepreneurship as a career. Maybe you have a business idea or you don't have a business idea, but you feel that can be a potential option for you as a career. Feel free to book a meeting with me. We are using a platform called Startup Tree. This is where you will be able to get access to my calendar and have that one-on-one mentoring session with me, we are able to provide feedback, and keep track of the meeting that we will be having. So it's a very easy step, as you can see on the screen. You just have to create an account online and go in there, pick a date, pick a time. We are offering the option to do in-person meetings, so you can even come here at the office and meet with me. Or if you feel comfortable in your PJs or your loungewear, stay at home and still have a chance to chat with me. So I would love to see you book a meeting. And the second thing that we also do, and I also lead as a venture coach, is our webinar. This is the third webinar that we have today. We made sure that we are providing you with a consistent program when it comes to the topics that we will be discussing. Today, we'll talk about ideas. We have our upcoming ones with the law faculty. We will have student lawyers coming and sharing how you can incorporate, register your business, how you can, write a legal contract if you have to hire people, how to protect your idea in terms of, patent, non-disclosure agreement. So I encourage you to register for that one. Everything is already on the website. We also have a special guest coming on November 9, and I highlight that webinar. It's very accessible to anyone. We often hear entrepreneurs saying, I don't have an idea. Well, maybe you don't have an idea, but you have all the skills. You have the mindset, you see yourself as an entrepreneur. This is a new way for people to dive into entrepreneurship without coming up with their own idea. They can just purchase a business. So we have Cordell coming for that one. He's a CEO of the Canada Accelerator Program through entrepreneurship, through acquisition. So if you want to learn about that new way of becoming an entrepreneur, this is the one you don't want to miss. The registrations are open. Everything is on the website. Again, I encourage you to check the website, to check the webinar, and to already start RSVP for the next one. Finally, we are going to dive directly into the topic of the day, right? Entrepreneurship is about having a strong business idea. And as I mentioned earlier, I see a lot of students asking me, how can I come up with a strong business idea? Some of them already have the skills. They see themselves as entrepreneurs. They have the mindset, and we talked about the mindset on the previous webinar. They see themselves passionate, curious, but still no business idea. So today we are going to provide you with a little bit of tips on how to become creative. And this is the agenda. You just have to understand that entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs are creative thinkers. So creativity is really at the core base of entrepreneurship. Now, as I've mentioned before, some entrepreneurs don't necessarily have to come up with a great business idea to become entrepreneurs. There are numerous ways available for you, even if you don't have a groundbreaking idea. And we will discuss that further in this webinar. The third thing that you have to also take into consideration in entrepreneurship, it's all about problem solving. The problem will often be identified as a need, and it's important for entrepreneurs or people who aspire to become entrepreneur to understand the process of coming up with a business idea, which is identify a problem or a need. And then we will talk about the ideation process. And then finally, I will give you a few takeaways at the end of the webinar. I always have that question before we begin. I'll take a quick poll here. But just let us know in the chat if you are interested in entrepreneurship. I'll send quickly my poll, and feel free to answer. I will give you a few seconds. And there's no right or wrong answer. This is a safe place for people who are just wondering and just want to know what the Stu Clark Center is up to. What do we talk about here at the Stu Clark Center? So we are not here to judge you, even if you don't see yourself as an entrepreneur. It's okay. Just 2 more seconds and I'll end that. Okay, perfect. I'll share the results. So we have 92% of people today ready to consider entrepreneurship as a career. So you came to the right place. We are here to support you, and I hope that you will get enough validation for your aspiration at the end of this webinar. I have a second question. I will let you take a look at these entrepreneurs. We talked about the mindset last Wednesday, like during the previous webinar, and we have highlighted a few characteristics that successful entrepreneurs have. So I have another question for you. When you look at all these successful entrepreneurs, what is the main characteristic that you think they all have in common? Okay, I'll give you a few seconds to look at them all. They're probably well known, like we know the founder of Facebook and Apple, Disney, Bumble. Just give a few seconds again. Okay, perfect. I'll end the poll and I'll share the result with you. Okay, so 10% social tech founder, 20% success. They are all successful. This we cannot agree, but I don't think it's a characteristic of entrepreneurs, because most of the time when you start off as an entrepreneur, you're not necessarily successful. Creative thinker, perfect. 70% said creative thinker, and I agree. You can take a look at the journey and get to know about them a little bit better. But one thing that they all have in common is that they are creative thinker, which leads us to another point here that I'll be discussing. Perfect. Creative thinking. Creative thinking is a very common characteristic when it comes to identifying entrepreneurs. And maybe you don't see yourself as a creative thinker. Maybe you don't see yourself as a creative, but you have to understand that creativity is at the core base of entrepreneurship. You look at existing model, you look at how things are operating, and you try to think of a way to better the process, or come up with something new, like a new approach to handling an issue. And all of these ways of thinking is what is called creativity. Like, it's not necessarily something that relate to art, but it's about having a mindset of thinking about something new, always constantly challenging the norm, challenging the current process of things, and try to address that challenge with something that is out of the norm. Like if we take the example of Walt Disney, back in the days, there was no cartoons, so he came up with that way of entertaining people. If you read through his journey, he was really driven by making people happy, entertaining people, and he designed all these cartoons out of his imagination. So you have to understand that really being up in the cloud, entrepreneurs are always up in the cloud. They are thinking ahead. They're looking at the future and try to picture the product in that future. So it's a way of thinking that is available to everyone, not just creative. And it's a muscle that you can get to practice. Like I've mentioned, some people will mislead creativity with artistry, but it's not the same. Like, obviously, people who are in the art industry are creative in some sense, but you have entrepreneurs that are also creative and are not into the art industry. So if you don't see yourself as a creative, I just want to encourage you today that creativity is something that you can grow, something that you can nurture. And one of the way you can do that is to really think outside of the box. Now, it's easy to say to someone, think outside of the box. What is the box? You first of all have to identify the box in your life. And that can be maybe the way you've been raised, maybe how you see life. You really have a hard time dreaming. You really have a hard time thinking that impossible things can become possible. So identify some of the limitation that you have in your own life that is preventing you to be creative, to think outside of the box, and try to come up with ways to overcome that, those challenges, that way, that traditional way of seeing things. And some of the questions you can ask yourself that can lead you to think a different ways. What is the place of innovation in your life? Are you someone that is still using an old computer, or are you someone who is already drawn into technology? You always have the latest trend. You always know about the latest software, the latest app. And when people take your cell phone, they are confused about all the icons because you are really leaning toward technology. So think about that as someone in your life. Do you value innovation in your life? Are you a more traditional person, or are you leaning toward innovation, like a futuristic lifestyle? And that leads us to the second point. What do you see in the future? And that's a great question for people who struggle with creativity. Creativity comes out of the imaginary. So if you have a hard time dreaming about the future, you have a hard time being a creative in terms of entrepreneurship. So ask yourself, maybe you see cars flying, and yeah, it may look childish, but that's the whole point of creativity. That's the whole point of trying to think outside the box. You have to define the norms of traditional thinking. Design a world where everything can be possible. If you see cars flying, then that's your way of practicing creativity. What do you see? What will be the latest technology in terms of cars? Now we can see that Tesla is now on trend when it comes to buying an electronic car, but it wasn't the case a few years ago. So someone had to literally sit and be like, okay, I want my car to not run on gas. I want my car to be able to be a certain way. And it's really diving into the imaginary world and not letting any limitation, not letting any opinion drive you away from that thinking. The third point is, what will the world look like with your innovation in it? So when you design, when you do all this exercise of thinking about innovation, thinking about the future, what is the thing that is missing right now that you can see in your future? And feel free to escape into a world of imagination. Don't limit yourself. Again, we're talking about thinking outside of the box. So you will even feel uncomfortable. You will feel crazy. Maybe find a 5-year-old kid and have this conversation with him. Because kids are receptive to dreams. They are receptive to imagination. So if you feel like none of your friends will be able to take you seriously, find a few little friends and then have a conversation and get your mindset, your creative mindset going. And this is the best way. This is a few tips that you can start practicing to become creative, to think about a way to change the world with a product, with a service that is not existing. But don't limit yourself in terms of design, in terms of possibility. Even if it seems impossible today, let me tell you, it can be possible in a few years. And if you consider yourself as a little bit more conservative, like we've mentioned, it's okay. Entrepreneurship is not always about coming up with a groundbreaking idea, working yourself, trying to figure out an innovating product or service. Sometimes you have to start with what you have. And what you have can be your skills, what you have can be your mindset. We talked about that. And that's good enough as an entrepreneur. You shouldn't feel unqualified to entrepreneurship just because you are not creative or you don't consider yourself as a creative. Like, it's a muscle, like we mentioned. It takes time. If you are someone on a more traditional level, it takes time to grow and become comfortable with dreaming and imagining a better world. But meanwhile, you can do with what you have. You can buy an existing business. And this is great because we are having a webinar on November 9th. We have an expert coming, providing you with the tools to prepare yourself to acquire a business, and become an entrepreneur, even if you didn't come up with that idea. It's a great way to venture into entrepreneurship. The second point is you can become a partner or an investor. Maybe someone around you has the idea and you listen to them, you feel like, okay, it's a great fit. It's something that you have great interest. It's an industry that you feel passionate about. But you didn't come up with the idea. Basically, you can still work alongside someone who is creative and have all these ideas, and still support that business with your expertise. Maybe you have a more technical expertise, or maybe a business expertise, or engineering expertise, science expertise, computer science expertise. You can still be a part of building a business from ground up. So I encourage you to venture, to connect among the student community. And one of the things that we do here, when I meet with students, I encourage them to talk to other students, go to other faculty, look at if there's any open workshop for other faculty students, for students across faculty to come together and connect and learn and brainstorm around business ideas. One popular thing that is rising up is investing. Investing is becoming very accessible now, with people coming together, providing a lump sum, and picking startups, picking new ventures, and investing in exchange of equity, or sometimes in exchange of a specific return. So investing is now an option for people who still want to find out entrepreneurship. Maybe you have the means, but you're not quite sure what it is, and you don't want to dive into opening up your own business. You can still have that proximity with entrepreneurship as an investor. And depending on the type of investment, some investment comes with equity, different types of shares where you can actually make decisions. And again, it depends on the type of investing that you choose, but some of them can come with a little bit more involvement in running the business, compared to just getting a financial return on your investment. And finally, but not the least, open a franchise. This is a very easy model to follow. A lot of franchise, the brand is already there. They'll provide you with everything you need to do to run your business. And you're using the brand. Let's say McDonald's, you don't have to have a Facebook account marketing your McDonald's shop or restaurant. So the advantage of opening a franchise is that everything is done for you. You really have to have the business skills or the marketing skill, or any other type of skills, and be able to be successful if you choose to open a franchise. So those are the three alternatives. If you don't see yourself as a outside thinker, or maybe you are practicing, but you have the mean, you have the mindset, you have the skill, and you really want to dive into entrepreneurship, you can explore these 3 options and call yourself an entrepreneur. Now, as I mentioned before, there is the concept of problem solving that's very important when it comes to finding a business idea, right? It is the core base of entrepreneurship. They are creative thinker, but how do you start even thinking when you don't know what to think about? So the first point to get your creativity going, or even identifying what your business may look like, is really finding a problem. Like this quote is saying, to become an entrepreneur is to find a problem, to be the solution to the problem. So you may wonder, how can I find a problem? Like, what's the process to identify a problem? And we call a problem here a need. Okay, in the business world, you often hear people talking about a need or a problem or customer need. So it's the same, it's the same term. First of all, problems are everywhere. Let me tell you this. In your personal life, you probably encounter challenges. As a customer, you encounter challenges, and it's very easy to focus on one issue, maybe in your life, that is causing you a lot of trouble, that is maybe making you emotional. And we see that there's a lot of trends in sustainable business ideas. And this is a graphic that was provided by a great resource. And it's just highlighting the different problems that your business can be tackling or answering. So if you see yourself as a social entrepreneur, or you really want to bring that innovative solution into market, these are the different sectors that you can look at and find out somewhere a problem that you can relate to, and begin to think of a way to answer that problem, to answer that need. Now, there is a whole process when it comes to the problem. Sometimes we confuse the problem with the symptoms, with the cause. And this is a simple diagram that you can follow to really help you dive into the different points that you need to understand that are part of the problem. So for example, when you do a market research, a secondary market research, or you are aware of an issue, usually it will come up as a symptom. Like you will see people are struggling with accessing healthcare, right? This can be a symptom. Like you see there's something happening on the surface that is reflecting of an undergoing issue, right? So the problem will often manifest itself through the symptoms. Now, when you identify the symptoms, you can kind of have that diagram and ask yourself the right questions. What are the causes? What is the immediate effect? For example, if we go back to the health system, let's say you're noticing that some people maybe don't have access to healthcare. What is the immediate effect of that statement? Maybe there's a high rate of hospitalization, maybe a high rate of death. You know, the long-term effect can be people not being able to work. So you have to really map out your thinking when it comes to identify the problem. And this section is tied to the secondary market research, what we call industry data. So you will do a few research, you know, on Google, or pull up some report from Statistics Canada, from the census. And we have a great resource here at the library. If you are a student of the university, let me tell you, the library have access to very detailed reports to be able to help you conduct a proper problem analysis. And once you begin thinking that way, you will either validate your problem. You will say, okay, I have now all the data. I went through the report. There's something really happening in that industry. There is a problem here. It's not just something that I'm assuming. I have the proof through the research, through the data, through questioning, maybe asking people. That will be another type of research. But even doing extensive research on the problem will provide you with enough consistency when it comes to identifying a problem. And we often say you have to ask yourself 5 times why, because it's easy to stay on the surface level when it comes to identifying a problem. We will limit our thinking to the symptoms and not really dive into the root and identifying the problem. Like I often see students saying, we want people, we're noticing that people are not socializing, and we are creating an app to help people socialize. Now, I'll ask you, not socializing, is it really the problem or is it a symptom? And now you begin to think about, oh, maybe I'm noticing something. I'm just noticing a behavior that's underlying a problem. So why are students not socializing? Okay, maybe they are busy with the course. Now you're kind of digging on the why. Okay, they are busy with the course. Maybe they have, they suffer with their mental health. They're not comfortable in a social setting. That can be a second why. The third why can be, maybe they're busy. They have a job. They working too many jobs, like student. They just have time to come to school, and then no social life because of the work life that they have. That's a third answer. So when you dive into asking yourself why, maybe you have your first idea, okay, I want to create an app that will help students socialize. But when you start diving into the problem that you've identified, what it will do, it will help you highlight the cause. Like I've mentioned, 3 causes already, and maybe go back and identify what's the problem. Is it really socializing, or is it that maybe they're suffering with mental health? So maybe I need to create an app that will address that problem rather than a social app. So when you begin to follow the process of identifying a problem, but still give yourself enough time to keep questioning the problem, then you will realize that you will get closer to an idea that will meet a need. And maybe that can be a broad or a very big idea, or that can be something very specific to a specific niche, specific problem, specific need. And that's also, worth the adventure of entrepreneurship. I feel sometimes we always want the problem to be as big, but we are missing the mark with sticking with the big, not real problem versus going to answer a very specific problem with a niche, but it's a true problem. So those are the real point that you need to think about when you identify your problem. You need to ask yourself 5 times why. You need to have the diagram that I've mentioned. What is causing that? Is it really a problem, or is it a symptom? Is it a cause versus is it a symptom? Ask yourself, and again, document everything. Go to the report. I have students asking me, I don't know what type of report I should pull up. And that's a legitimate question. If you don't know what type of report, start with this exercise. I'll tell you, it will provide you so many branches to the issue that you will now know what to look for. Like if you identify that one cause of an issue is a specific problem, then you know that you will be focusing on finding the data to back up your hypothesis when it comes to that problem. So that's already one report that you will know what to pull. And again, the rest will be very easy once you identify what to look for. You go and do your secondary market research to really validate the problem or invalidate the problem. Maybe what you thought was a problem is not really a problem. And maybe you are now discovering the real problem And now that you find out what's the real problem is, you can begin to think about a way to answer that problem. And I'm coming back again. You can still ask yourself, where can I find a problem? I don't know, maybe there's no problem. Maybe my life is not too dramatic. And I'm okay. I wake up every day, I go to work. I'm not aware of any issues. I've provided you with a few tips to kind of identify problems around you, but there's a process of also coming up with ideas on your own, right? Even if you don't necessarily see your problem, or it's very hard for you to have that creative mindset, those are a few tips that you can follow to help you come up with an idea. And maybe that idea can spark in you a problem. Sometimes it can be the other way. Sometimes you can find a problem and navigate through the different causes and symptoms. Or sometimes you have an idea and you kind of figure out, okay, is this idea answering a problem? How can I go about that? So either way, it's still a good way for you to ideate. But you have to be someone who is inquisitive, observant. You like to network, and you also like to discuss. We talked about practice here. What I like about entrepreneurship is just you can grow these skills even if you don't see yourself as inquisitive. Now that you understand that identifying a problem is very important, maybe you will become a person who is now who is asking around, which just like always looking for what's happening, observing maybe trends, reading a lot, talking to people. If you are at university now, everything is in person. There's always an event happening where people will be discussing issues. I always get notification of webinars where people will be tackling issues, whether it's in sustainability or diversity and inclusion, technology, science. There's always an opportunity for you to be out there and observe and network and start having this conversation that can also spark a great idea. And you have to start with what you know best. So I'll say, if you are a student in engineering, how about you start with growing an interest in that space? Maybe connect with other engineers, maybe try to figure out what would be the next big thing in that space, and have that conversation. You don't have to come up with an idea outside of your expertise. It's easy to question your industry, the field, your organization, because you are already working. You already know exactly, a little bit at least, of what's happening in that space. What frustrates you about it? You will see a lot of social entrepreneurs have a big heart for society. They are frustrated about maybe injustice or the climate change. People are emotional about some of these issues. What makes you emotional in your life as an individual? Are you emotional when it comes to social justice, like I've mentioned, or climate change? Any social issues? Are you getting frustrated about that? Maybe that can be a cue for you to think about a solution that can ease people, because if you experience so much emotion and frustrations about a situation, I guarantee there's a lot of people that are also frustrated about how things are being handled. And that can give you another way to thinking about a solution. The other thing that you want to ask, what opportunities do you see? Like I've mentioned, you want to have a futuristic mindset. But in order to think about the future, you have to know what's happening, because most of the time we're thinking, okay, this is never gonna happen. But people have been working on that for the past 10 years already. And when it comes, it almost feels as if it just came to market a year ago, but that's not the truth. People are always thinking about next opportunity, and this happened through conversation. Like I say, in your organization, in your industry, maybe some people are already working on artificial intelligence in a specific field, maybe health, and maybe you don't think that's new, but it's happening. So having the conversation will give you a little bit of insight if you were to jump into that space. How further can you bring that idea, right? So again, opportunities are all around. Have this conversation. Start with what you know best. Start with your industry. Connect with people in your space just to get your creative juice going, ideas flowing. And I guarantee this will already get you inspired, and you will have some ideas coming out of these discussions. Another point that I want to emphasize on is entrepreneurs' ideas are not too far. Like I've mentioned, if you have a hard time coming up with an idea on your own, maybe stirring conversation on a specific topic can help you. I often say, don't invite me at your family gathering because everything turned into a debate. That's my personality. I always like to bring controversial topics, things that I'm experiencing. I always seek of feedbacks. I really want to see where people stand on that issue, and just stirring up conversation and getting inspiration, getting people saying, yes, you are not the only one thinking that way. I have a few friends that also have encountered the same problem, and that's very accessible to everyone. You have friends, you have family members. What are the topics that you bring during those meetings when you get to see your friends? Are you bringing any entrepreneurial topics or controversial topics in the business world, or things that you're passionate about, but you want to know if they are also passionate about, or their opinion on what you're thinking? So don't shy away from having conversation with people and getting that validation that you are not the only one thinking that way is already a greater step to having a strong idea. Because at the end of the day, you will be selling that idea to people, you will be marketing your product or your service. So you want to make sure that at least there is a common ground here when you talk to people, that they agree with what you are agreeing with. Challenge your routine and experiment. Nothing happened in your comfort zone. You've probably heard it. Entrepreneurs will go out of the comfort zone. If you have that struggle of shying away from networking, from talking to people, I would challenge you to try to come out of your comfort zone and maybe find people who have common interests with you, and somehow, some way, try to get the conversation going. Challenge your routine. Maybe you were just going to work, school, staying at home. Maybe now try to say, okay, once a week, I'll go to the gym and I'll say hi to people. Give yourself little goals that you can achieve. You don't have to go all the way out of your comfort zone in one day, but try to incorporate a little bit of stressors, I will call them, because you will feel uncomfortable at first. It's not your natural element to talk to people. But even when you feel that little and comfort, still try to give it your best, one goal at a time, one step at a time, and you will be able to now change your routine. Now you will become more aware of your environment, and probably listen more to people and become more creative, or think about ideas to become an entrepreneur. And like I said, expose yourself to art and innovation. People always think about creatives as artists because there's something about having a free mind that will allow you to not consider negative opinion, but really being able to be focused and believe in your imagination, even when it seems crazy. So expose yourself to art, innovation, volunteer in some sort of association, still within your industry. Or if you are ready to go out of your comfort zone, maybe look at the next trending industry and try to see if they have opening in an association, or maybe you can give 1 hour here and there to connect with people in that industry. But be aware of trends, read the newspapers. I know it's easy to be on Instagram and scroll and look at other people's lives, but try to organize yourself to read the newspaper, to listen to podcasts. Make sure that you follow people, entrepreneurs that inspire you, people that are living the life that you want to live. Make sure that you have them somewhere in your social media feed, so you always keep that entrepreneurial mindset going. You don't get discouraged. Feel encouraged to follow people, to stalk your entrepreneur, your favorite entrepreneur, and read about their journey, and yeah, connect with innovation. The last point is conduct brainstorming activities. Now, this can be done in an educational setting. Even here, we have our business competitions and it's open to students. So if you know anyone in your class, we did the presentation. So maybe you can come up to few students and say, I want to apply to this Stu Clark competition, but I don't have an idea. Do you have an idea? Can we collaborate? Those are opportunities where you will get to practice your creative muscle and bounce off business ideas and really immerse yourself into that experience. Brainstorm activities. Maybe you can go to another faculty. I talked about that a lot. There's always an event happening on campus, even outside of the university. There's always stuff happening in the business community. Here, if you are not active on LinkedIn, I will invite you to be a little bit more proactive on LinkedIn. Even Eventbrite, you can type in networking event in Winnipeg and you have a list of events coming up, and pick one of the event that you think will have is aligning with your interests in terms of entrepreneurship, and go and have this conversation, brainstorm, get some feedback, get out there. That's the whole point. You have to get out there. We are heading to the end. Again, you can use the Q&A to ask your questions. Like I've mentioned, first question asked will have a gift. So as soon as I'm done with the webinar, I'll open up the Q&A and the first person will have a gift. So if you haven't typed in your question, this is the moment to do so. But I'll wrap up today with a few points on how to come up with a creative idea, how to become a creative thinker, a creative entrepreneur, or someone who has idea. You have to think big. Like I said, impossible can become possible. Back in the days, there was no way people would have imagined some of the greatest technology we have today, but people dared to think big. They dared to dream. They didn't think about what people will see, maybe consider them quirky or crazy. They were dreamers, they were believers. So think big. Even if there's a bad idea code, you still have to go out there and have the conversation to know if it's a bad idea. Sometimes you can think, okay, this is great, but maybe it's not too great. Maybe you need a little bit more work. So keep working on that. Keep working on the process that I shared with you, and becoming more creative. Follow the process, follow the problem identification point. Talk to people, like we've mentioned. Find your passion and grow your passion. We always talked about why. This is a big point for entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are passionate about the service or the product that they are presenting to the world. If you are not passionate about what you're doing, maybe you should question yourself if you should be doing it. Passion is one of the strongest strengths that you can have as an entrepreneur. It will fuel your motivation. It will help you convince people, help you convince partner, investors to believe in you, even when you haven't proven your business model to be successful. So find your passion. Look at yourself as an individual. We talked about the entrepreneurial personality test that I'm inviting you to take if you haven't done so. We talked about doing a personal SWOT analysis, finding out your strength, your weakness, your opportunity in your environment, the threat in your environment, and really try to focus on your strength. Know yourself as an individual. What are the causes that break your heart? What are the things that you want to see in the future? What will make your life better as a person? And are you passionate about the product or the service that you want to bring in market? Why do you want to bring that product on market? Why do you want to bring that service on market? So those are the questions that you have to ask yourself as well, and document your journey. Like we said, there's no bad ideas, maybe wrong problems, I'll say, or wrong process, I'll say. So write your ideas if you are someone who journal. If you do not journal, I'm inviting you to somehow keep track on all the information that you're seeing online. Maybe you have different categories. You have innovative, technology trends, theme trends, social trends, and really organize yourself, organize your thought process, organize your ideas, maybe by passion, by skill, by trends, and try to document everything so that when you sit down and you're trying to come up with an idea, you look at the different aspects of your life, you look at the different information that you were able to withdraw from your research, and you take all of this into consideration to map out your ideas. Practice creativity. I believe that we are all creative, not necessarily as artists, but we have that capacity to think of a new way of functioning. Even as an individual, maybe you have your own way of doing your stuff that works for you. So you are creating something that works for you. So see yourself as a creative, see creativity as a tool that is accessible to everyone. It's not just specific to a personality type, but it's accessible to everyone. You have to immerse yourself into an environment that will awaken that creativity. Like I've mentioned, volunteer, have these conversations, go to networking event, go to art event even, because I feel there's a strong passion that can be born out of you designing something, maybe creating a prototype on your computer and visualizing. So anything that you can do to help you think outside of the box is great. It's a great way to become creative. And at last, seek for constructive feedback. Don't keep your idea. I'll be cautious with that, because I still believe that some ideas should not be shared with everyone, so that you don't get discouraged and then you give up, and then a few years later you see yourself wondering why I already had that idea but I didn't pursue that because people were not believing in me. So there's a fine line here with seeking constructive feedback. Talk to experts, talk to people who are in the space, in that industry, who are familiar with what you're trying to achieve, so that they don't discourage you, but they give you constructive feedback so you can better your idea. So those are my takeaways for today. And again, if you have any questions, the webinar will be listed on the website. I'm here, you have my email, you can connect with me using our Startup Tree platform to book a meeting, but I would like to continue that conversation further. The next webinar, if you have any question when it comes to registering your business, you're not quite sure what to do, how to protect yourself, how to protect your idea, how to draft a contract, please register to that one. Share with your friends, entrepreneurs, friends, or people who want to learn how to register a business, how to be in business, because it's going to be interesting. This is in partnership with the law faculty, and they have great insight, great student, advanced student coming to share a few tips with you to help you prepare for your business. Again, I already talked about that. Book a meeting with me if you have any questions. Now we are accepting application to our business competitions happening in March. Maybe you don't have an idea yet, but you want to apply to the competition. I think it's time for you to book a meeting and then discuss and see how I can help you ideate and come up with a strong business idea. Now it's time for the Q&A. I'm just gonna pull up here the questions. Perfect. So we have Sanjana Sabu. She's the first question. She has the first question. or he asked the first question. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your pronoun, but I'll read that, and you get a free gift from us today. If you pursue a career in entrepreneurship, what are the job opportunities beyond a business ownership potential? Are there any opportunities for writing and creative design development as in marketing, since it is hard to start a business without proper expertise in the area? Yes, absolutely. I think entrepreneurship is many things now. It can be something innovative, it can be a venture, it can be a startup, or you can be a consultant and still consider yourself as an entrepreneur. There's always that constant of innovation and creativity that you have to think about when you do a consulting business. Like, how different are you from your competition? Even creating design, like if your designs are extremely great, what's the process? Are you customizing a platform? And I'm a big user of Canva. This is what I use for this presentation. So there's always space to combine your expertise with a little bit of technology, right? So, and again, that's when it comes to becoming creative. When you look at the competition, when you look at what other people are doing, how can you do it differently, still within your expertise, which is design development? So if there is a way for you to incorporate technology in what you do, maybe create another platform such as Canva and make animation, animated design, and really bring up a unique value, I'll say that that's also entrepreneurship. So that's a great question. The second question, yeah, please, are there jobs available in entrepreneurship? Yes. I think when we talk about jobs, I want to clarify that some entrepreneurs will begin their journey with a side venture, meaning that they are not full-time working as entrepreneurs, but it doesn't mean that they are not entrepreneurs. So maybe for you, it's easy to start something on the side and grow it to the point where you will now become a full-time entrepreneur, meaning a full employee or a full-time founder, because your business is growing to a point where you are able to pay yourself enough and sustain the business. So yeah, and we talked about few alternatives. If you don't want to start your own business, maybe you can become an investor, you can become a partner with your expertise. You find someone with the idea and you support the business idea with your expertise. So I will invite you to go back to the webinar and kind of go through those points if you have interest in that. Is opportunity the same as a problem? It can be. I think if you ask yourself the same questions when you see an opportunity, is that opportunity highlighting a problem that you think your business can answer with a product or service? So an opportunity can be seen as a problem. Again, it really depends on where you're going with your idea. But if you see an opportunity, a business opportunity, you have to look at it as a problem that your business will be solving with the product or a solution. One last question, and I will wrap up for today. Sometimes it is hard to get funding when you have a business idea, especially as an international student. Okay, any advice? I understand the struggle of finding funding as an international student, but I think it takes time for a business to even acquire funding. And when we talk about funding, there's different types of funding. If you're looking at loans, yes, you probably have to maybe find a partner who has the Canadian citizenship or permanent residence, or you will have to time yourself to be able to get to a place where you can qualify for a loan. So I always say to international students, it's all about planning. You don't run a business overnight. So I'll encourage you, even if you are an international student, to keep working on your idea, to follow the process, validate your idea, do the report, make sure that you build a strong business case so that when it comes to the time for you to look for funding, you have more chances to get funding. But there's different avenues when it comes to funding that you can venture into and learn more. Perfect. So I think I'll wrap up for today. Again, thank you so much. And Sanjana, if you are around the university, please send me an email or come here at the Drake to get your prize, but follow up with me for sure. And thanks everyone for coming and joining us today. I wish you a great afternoon. We're gonna wrap up for today and have a great afternoon. Bye everyone.